Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, 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 Desimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Siva Gedola, Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Desimcha. Someone smile. The reason someone smile. The reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha.
Honor or respect. It's one of the greatest mitzvahs we can do, to honor our parents, to honor our rabbis and spiritual masters, and to honor all of humanity, because everyone is made b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. Kavod is from the same root as kaved, heaviness, because there's a heaviness laying on our heart when we have to give honor and respect to others. Because at times, our egoism wants it all for itself. When we successfully meditate upon the infinite importance of the other soul, this heaviness is lifted and our heart awakens and expands. Perhaps this is why kavod, honor, same numerical value as leiv, heart. According to the honor we can give others, so too will be the amount of light and love we can receive from them and give to them.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Elli. It is Thursday, the 26th day of January. Can you believe that? The 4th day of Shevat, 5783, the year of Hakhel. The Torah portion is Bo. HaYom, Yom Chamishi l'Shabbos, 5th day counting up towards Shabbos. We learn the 5th Aliyah and starting the Rabbi Sachs Torah portion for today. Very excited. Today is the yahrzeit, the Hilula of the Baba Sali, and we're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But I think the first thing we need to do is we need to get men and boys to get their tzitzis on, and let's make a bracha on tzitzit. Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right. Al divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Hareini mekabel.
Hareini mekabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
Torah Tziva.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
Time to give tzedakah.
We're
giving a little extra today in honor of our site.
Put it in the push for someone else to keep.
Uncle Baba Sali.
I put it in the push that's a doctor box. I put it in the push that's a doctor box. I put it in the push for someone else in need.
Very, very difficult times. All right, tzedakah has been given. Listen to that money pour in. All right, it is time to say the Shema. Put your right hand over your eyes.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
All right, and that brings us to the time to eat breakfast.
Hakhel Biederman,
All right, let me just pop something down here really quick. Here we go. That's good. Right there would be perfect. Okay. Okay. Breakfast, yes. Coffee and yogurt, as per usual. Borachato Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihya b'dvaroi. Very nice. Very, very nice.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All righty, let us now go for today in Jewish history. All right, let me get this up and running over here. Today is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Avram Kaliska. Avram of Kalisk, who lived from 1741 to 1810, was a controversial figure in the third generation of Hasidic leaders. In his youth, he was a study partner of the Gaon of Vilna, the Tzaddik of Vilna, Rabbi Eliyahu, who led initial opposition against the Hasidim. But later, Rebbe Avram himself joined the Forbidden Kat, the sect, as the Hasidic movement was derisively called by its opponents, and became a disciple of Rabbi Dov Ber, the Maggid of Mizrich, the successor to Hasidism's founder, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. After Rabbi Dov Ber's passing in 1772, much of the opposition towards Hasidim was directed against Rabbi Avram's disciples, who, more than any other group within the movement, mocked the intellect elitism of the establishment scholars and communal leaders. Even Rabbi Avram's own colleagues were dismayed by the antics some of the disciples took. In 1777, he joined the first Hasidic Aliyah, in which a group of more than 300 Hasidim, led by Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, emigrated to the Holy Land. He passed away in the holy city of Tiberias on the 4th of Shevat in the year 5570 of creation, 1810. Nazi leader Reinhard Heydrich was appointed to head Germany's Office for Jewish Education in 1939, and in 1946, Islamists encouraged the local population to attack the Jewish community of Zanzur, Libya. Rioting spread to a number of small towns near Tripoli, leaving about 180 Jewish people dead and 9 synagogues destroyed. Hashem should avenge their blood. Yeshivas Kol Yaakov was established in 1957 in Moscow with the approval of the Soviet government after the communists had destroyed all religious life during the 20s and 30s. According to Soviet propaganda, this showed the world that the communists weren't anti-Semitic. And today is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Yisroel Abu Chatzaera. In 1984, Rabbi Yisroel Abu Chatzaera was known as the Baba Sali. He lived from 1890 to 1984. That's pretty good. Known as the Baba Sali, born in Tafalat, Morocco, to the illustrious Abu Chatzaera family. From a young age, he was a renowned sage, miracle maker, and master Kabbalist. In 1964, he moved from Morocco to the Holy Land, settling in the southern development town that he made famous called Netivot. He passed away in 1984 on the 4th of Shevat. His grave site in Netivot has become a holy site visited by thousands annually. Here it is. Now, I didn't put that music there. That was in the video, and I didn't have time to swap it out. The Baba Sali and the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent letters to each other on a regular basis. And some of those letters are printed in the books of the Igros Kodesh, the Sichas and letters of the Rebbe. We got a little bit more to tell you about the Baba Sali. I'm still reeling over that rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. We've got a couple of stories Let's start with one that's pretty famous.
I want to share with you the most incredible story about the Holy Tzaddik Baba Sali that I'm certain you've never heard before. And it's the story behind one of the most famous stories involving Baba Sali. The Holy Tzaddik Baba Sali, Rav Yisrael Abuchatzir Zatzal, who throughout the world people used to travel to Netivot to receive his bracha. And to this day, on the day of his yurtzeit, his hilula, tens of thousands of people from around the world come to daven at his kever. The story I'm about to say has been published in many, many books, and it's perhaps the most famous story about Baba Sali. However, there are many versions to it. So I verified this. We verified it by speaking to the Rabbanit Sime Buchatzir, Baba Sali's wife, who was alive and well in Netivot, as well as another woman who was there when the story took place. But then, what I'm going to share that happened after the story, or rather before, is truly mind-blowing. This is the story. There was a Yid from the city of Rishon LeZion that had a problem. He had an infection in his legs, and he was scheduled, unfortunately, for an amputation. And he came to Baba Sali after Baba Sali stopped accepting people for that day. It was in the afternoon. And he arrived in a wheelchair, but he decided he wanted to go up himself. So he crawled on all fours up the steps to Baba Sali's home. And he arrived next to the tzaddik, and the tzaddik motioned him he should sit in a chair. This Yid, with his energy, he was able to. He sat down in the chair, he pulled himself up. Baba Sali asked him what's wrong, and he got very emotional. He started to cry, and he said his story of how he was scheduled, unfortunately, for an amputation the next day, and he came for a bracha. So Baba Sali used to communicate through his Gabbai Rav Alfasi, and Rav Alfasi told the Yid what Baba Sali asked him. He repeated information back to him. Baba Sali took some arak, which is very famous, and Baba Sali, the Buchatzir family, and he poured the l'chaim for the Yid, and then he told Rav Alfasi to tell this gentleman to stand up. So Rav Alfasi, Tzaddik said, he said over to this person, Tzaddik said you should stand up. So he said, tell him that I'm paralyzed, I can't move, my legs don't work. So he repeated this to Baba Sali, and once again Baba Sali said, tell him I said he should stand up. And once again, the same thing happened. He said again, I can't move. After a few times, Baba Sali raised his voice slightly and said, tell him that I said he should stand up. And finally the person, I guess, took it seriously and started to feel something. And suddenly, he stood up. And the sheer shock of the moment, he didn't know what hit him. He said, what's happening to me? I can walk, I can feel my legs. And he ran out of Baba Sali's home. And he ran down the road towards Yeshivat HaNegev in Netivot, and he burst into the Beis Medrash. It's a famous story. And he said, what happened to him? The tzaddik healed my legs. What's happening to me? He was kind of losing it. And they told him, wait, why'd you run out of the tzaddik's house? He's probably waiting for you. So Jet went back to Baba Sali's home, sat down in a chair. And Baba Sali asked him a few questions. He said, tell me, do you keep Shabbos? Do you keep kosher? You put on tefillin? And the gentleman admitted that no, he didn't do any of these things. So the tzaddik told him, look, if you accept upon yourself and work upon yourself to accept Shabbos, kosher, kashrus, then Mitzvah Hashem, you'll be healthy the rest of your life. And so it was. He gave him a bracha, and this Yid became healthy and was able to walk, and it was a miracle. It was a nes. And this story spread like wildfire. It was all over Israeli news. It was covered by Israeli media. It was in the newspapers. There were pictures. There were celebrations. It's a famous story to this day. But this is the actual details of the story that's verified by Baba Sali's wife herself. Now, I called up my uncle, Rav Dovlev, who's Rosh Yeshiva in Schar Sacher, which is the new name of Yeshivat HaNegev, where this gentleman went. And I asked him, do you know anything more about the story? So he says, yeah. You mean the story with Rav Shlomo Miller? I'm like, Shlomo Miller, the name of Rav Shlomo Miller, who lived in Netivot. And he was a special person. He liked to do chesed. And one of the unique chesed that he liked to do was go to hospitals and visit Jews who unfortunately didn't have friends or family to visit them. And he would encourage them and give them chizuk and be with them and be their friend, because they were, so to speak, in isolation, which everyone can relate to today. And it came the day that he was in a hospital in Rishon LeZion, and he met this Yid who was lying there, totally depressed, sad, down. He asked him, tell me your story. And he said, unfortunately, he had a problem with his legs, an infection, and he was scheduled for an amputation the next day. So Rav Miller told him, look, I live in a Tivot. There's a big tzaddik by the name of Baba Sali. Why don't you let me take you there and get a bracha? He said, what do you mean? What tzaddik? What bracha? Nothing. He wasn't such a believer. He said, Miller said, look, what do you have to lose? Tomorrow you're scheduled for an operation. It's very, very scary. So he said, no, please. He totally had given up on himself, on hope, on life. But Miller said, look, I know Baba Sali. People come from around the world for him. I can get you in. Let's go. He was able to convince him. They checked themselves out of the hospital. They got permission. They had to come back the next day. Brought him in a wheelchair to the tzaddik Baba Sali. But Miller brought him there, and then the guy wanted to crawl himself. And then the story took place as you heard before. Think about that. This Yid Rav Miller, because he cared about another Jew, he didn't know this person. He wasn't particularly friendly with him. He just met him. But he cared about him so much that he convinced him to come take him to the tzaddik, and that's how he literally saved his life, both spiritually and physically. You know, this year, with the yurt site, the Hilula of Baba Sali, so many people want to have their tefillas take place at the tzaddik. Yad La'achim, the organization, has arranged that whoever wants to submit their names for davening at his kever for absolutely free can do so through Yad La'achim. Baba Sali was very close with Yad La'achim. He encouraged the organization. He used to give even donations, and he wrote a special letter in which he wrote that whoever supports Yad La'achim will be Zoicha to Birchas Kol Tov, basically a bracha of all Yeshuas. So just like Rav Miller cared about his friend, so too we should. Everyone knows someone who needs something, whether it's a shidduch, parnasa, fortunately health now, which is so rampant, everyone knows someone who is suffering. Every Yeshua, everything you need, you can call Yad La'achim or go to the website at yadl.org. And like I said, there's no minimum donation required. If you want to give some tzedakah, that's fine, but there's no minimum donation required. There never has, there never will be. yadl.org or call 1-866-923-5224. 866-923-5224. So I urge everyone on this special day, the Hilula, the yurt site of the holy tzaddik, the Baba Sali, who literally had thousands of people seeing their tefillas answered through him. The special tefillah that will take place at his kever through the Talmidei Chachamim, including grandchildren of the Baba Sali himself, big tzaddikim, Rosh Kollel. This is the time. yadl.org, yadl.org. Let's daven for one another. Let's give our names for those who need help. And with the schus of the big tzaddik, let's daven for each other. Let all our tefillas be answered.
Wow. Is that a story? That is an incredible, incredible story. I am so happy that I was able to present that to you. The Baba Sali was an amazing, amazing, amazing person. And his legacy lives on through the people that he helped. All right. One more piece. Here we go.
Let's give some tzedakah on such a special holy day as today. And you're asking what the day? Today is the 4th day of the month of Shevat, which is the Hilula, the yard site of Baba Saleh Aziz, so fondly called Rabbi Yisrael Abechsera. I want to share with you a fascinating letter that he wrote to the Rebbe in 1952, Tafshin Yud Beis. At that time he had moved already from Morocco to Israel, and he had some regrets, concerns about his being in Eretz Yisrael. And I want to read to you verbatim, and I'll translate it obviously. And he writes the following: L'chvoid Kodesh HaKodshim, in honor of the Holy of Holies, Amud HaOlam, pillar of the world, Or Yisrael v'Torosoi, the light of Israel and its Torah, Shaloi Kom Kemoisoi, that there is no one like him, Sarah Torah, minister of the Torah, V'Oiro and its teachings, Ohuv B'Shamayim u'Ba'oretz, beloved in heaven and on earth. Moreinu v'Rabbeinu, our master and our teacher. And he says the Rebbe's Harav, the Rebbe's two first names, Milubavitch. So that's a letter that he addressed to the Rebbe. And he writes as following: Hineni avdecha hakoton Yisrael. I am your little servant Israel. His name was Israel. Olisi mi Morocco l'Eretz Yisrael. I came from Morocco to the land of Israel. Vanoshim kan lo nisanuni heshev ruchi. And the people here don't give me peace in mind, peace of mind. Yomim v'leilos. I'm sorry. Boim elai b'chol shoyes HaYom v'layla. They come to me at any time, day or night. V'nivtza mimeni lavadis Hashem. And it's preventing me from serving God. Kasher hoysa ba'omna imi. As I used to be accustomed in my home, referring to back to Morocco. And he says, there, yomim v'leilos, day and night, shelo bitalti min haTorah rega echad. I have not missed, I have not wasted a moment, day and night, from study on Torah. And va'ato, he says, and presently, nafshi b'she'elosi, my soul is asking, Im uchal lovoy elecho la'artzos habris. Can I come to you, to the United States? Logur al yadcha b'kirvas mokon. I would love to live next to you, in close proximity. Ve'esosir me'enei kolish. And I will be hidden from any other person. And he concludes, Kobalti olai. I've accepted upon myself Shemashi Yoreini, Moreini Hara ve'eseh, that whatever my master, the Rebbe, will tell me, I will do. Kevan shehu amud ha'olam, because he, the Rebbe does, is the pillar of the world. V'kach hichrizu olav b'shamayim, and this is how he was declared in heaven. And he signs his name. This is what he wrote to the Rebbe. There is a long 3-page response from the Rebbe to him, dated Tes Nisan, the 9th day of Nisan, Tafshin Yud Beis. The gist of the letter, the Rebbe also gives him amazing titles: Shining Light, Guiding Light, Master of Prayer, on and on. And the Rebbe basically tells him, God has chosen you to be the leader amongst hundreds and thousands of your followers, indeed in Eretz Yisrael. And as such, you must stay there. And as such, your neshama, your soul, will be fulfilled by guiding all the other people. And the Rebbe goes into Kabbalistic concepts and quoting the Zohar, all about being a leader. That the leader's fulfillment happens when he leads, not when he shies away from actually his responsibilities. And indeed, he stayed, he listened.
How about that, huh? Yes, it's true. The Baba Sali was very close to the Rebbe. Yes, very much so. All right. God Albaz has a story. Let's do that also.
That was Shabbat Parashat Lech Lecha. And I was a little kid, 9 years old, playing Suda Shlishi time, around that time, outside with all the kids. I was a fast runner, even though I'm short. And I had like a competition with a friend of mine. So I overrun him, and he pushed me a little bit.
So when you overrun, it was down the hill like that. When you overrun, you go faster, 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 till you fall. And I fall right on the curve of the sidewalk, on the edge. And I lost conscience. And my eyes was rolled backwards. And there's no pulse, there's nothing. They're calling my dad, screaming, people screaming out my dad, trying to call ambulance. My dad came, lift me on his arms, see there's nothing, check my pulse, there's nothing. I'm
lifeless.
Already like 2-3 minutes like that. 5 minutes he's holding me like that and talking to God.
This is Shal Shudas on Shabbos.
Yeah. And he's holding me and he said, I will devote my life and his life to you. Bring me back my son. Bring me back my son. I'm not Abraham. He is not Isaac. I can't give him away to you. It's the biggest nisayon. Please don't do that to me. And he's talking to Hashem and he's talking to Hashem and then he screamed, God, bring me back my son. Everybody was, this was the story that I heard from my dad. And I woke up after 5 minutes out of the blue. When the ambulance came, they told him, I'm not going to make it. And then he grabbed me before they took me and I woke up. Like that. He took me, I took a shower. I sat down in the living room, blurry. And I told him, I saw something, Dad. He said, what did you saw? I said I was in a room, lying down in bed. And someone with white beard came to me to my room and with a hat, a red hat, and came to me and told me, don't worry, I'll take care of you. Nothing will happen to you. It's not your time. You need to go and to be a shliach of Hashem. I didn't know what I'm saying. And I told him, he told me his name is the Baba Sali. I didn't know how the Baba Sali was looking. I was not religious. My father freaked out. And he told him, you now going to be a shliach of Hashem and you're going to sing for Hashem.
Why singing?
What? I was singing then also. All my life I'm singing. And then I woke up. I told that to my dad.
Baba Sali told you you're going to sing.
Yeah. I woke up and my dad showed me a picture of Baba Sali and I started crying and I was afraid from the picture. I didn't want to see it. Then you realize that it was true. So since then my dad, this Motzei Shabbat, took the guitar and he composed one of the biggest songs that me and him had during that time that made a lot of people become in tshuva. It's a song, זה לא קשה לחזור בתשובה. תודה, תודה לאלוקיי, שנתת לי בן כזה. And I reply, אתה אבי, אני יודע זה קשה לחזור בתשובה. And the end goes, זה לא קשה.
Wow, powerful stuff. You can see that Baba Sali is getting into his car in the holy city of Netivot. Good morning, CJ. There is right there a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe on the windshield of his car, which he could see through the, how about that, huh? Pretty cool. All right, HaYom Yom for today, the fourth day of Shevat. Thank you for indulging me on the yard site of the Baba Sali.
You don't have to be locked up in a cell to be a prisoner. Visit an addiction rehab center and you will encounter people struggling desperately to break free of themselves. Aren't we all prisoners to bad habits of one form or another? Today's HaYom discusses the personal Egyptian slavery that we can all be subject to. To be in your own personal Mitzrayim is to be at a juncture in your life where the material, selfish, habitual you gets the best of your life, to the point that the material you completely envelops and silences the spiritual voice inside of you. Now you're in Egypt. But personal redemption and freedom is always possible. All you have to do is recognize that the spiritual, selfless you is also the godly you. Just as God has got infinite powers, so too the godly spark in your consciousness, the godly spark that is the selfless spiritual you, has got infinite potential. Armed with this knowledge, the spiritual you can now break through the shackles of the material you, and you are on your way to living a better lifestyle, both cognitively and emotionally.
All right. Before we move on, I would like to acknowledge that tonight and tomorrow, today, last night and today, is the yahrzeit of the Baba Sali. In addition, Tali, yes, reminds us that it is the yahrzeit of his father, Moshe, yes, of blessed memory, most famously known for his hit song, My Zadie, that made its way around the world back in a time when things didn't happen overnight in the music world. He had many albums, many songs, but what made his music take the Jewish world by storm was that despite having an English language original Jewish content in his lyrics, his style didn't sound very Jewish. It was very American sounding. It was modern and very up to the minute. Now, many disagreed with this type of change, and there was lots of rabbinic pushback. He nonetheless opened doors for many artists to try new flavors and genres at a time where Jewish music had a very distinct sound. Today, everyone does Jewish music in any style they want. May we all merit to make positive change in our lives and the lives around us, to bring Hashem's light down into the world the best way we know how. If you have a minute to light a candle or say a traditional l'chaim in the memory of Moshe Aaron ben Zev, please take time to do that today. It's a big mitzvah. Let me see if I can really quickly find a Moshe Yes song to pop in here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I think we can pop Zadie in here. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get it really quick. And we'll pop that in and have a Moshe Yes song right now, which is pretty cool and exciting that I can do that. Let's see how we're doing with that. Here we go. All right, here's Moshe Yes.
The best day of my life happened almost 3 years ago, when I felt for the first time the wheels of the El Al jet touch down in Israel. And Sholem and I are both very proud to say that we now live in Jerusalem. Every day, thank you, every day when you walk down the beautiful streets of our holy city, it's really not too hard to think back upon the millions of Jewish people down through the centuries of our history who would have given every single thing that they owned just for the privilege of putting their hand on the Western Wall, as we've been allowed to do in our lives. One of the people who never had a chance to come to Israel was my grandfather. As most of you know, a grandfather in Yiddish is called a Zaidi. Well, this next song, it's partly true. It is partly about my Zaidi and partly about yours. My Zaidi lived with us in my parents' home. He used to laugh, he put me on his knee, and he spoke about his life in Poland. He spoke, but with a bitter memory, and he spoke about the soldiers who would beat him, and they laughed at him. They tore his long black coat. And he spoke about a synagogue that they burned down, and the crying that was heard beneath the smoke. But Zaidi made us laugh, Zaidi made us sing, and Zaidi made a kiddish Friday night. And Zaidi, oh my Zaidi, how I love him so. And Zaidi used to teach me wrong from right. His eyes lit up when he would teach me Torah. He taught me every line so carefully. He spoke about our slavery in Egypt and how God took us out to make us free. But winter went by, summer came along. I went to camp to run and play. And when I came back home, they said, Zaidi's gone. And all his books were packed and stored away. I don't know how or why it came to be. It happened slowly over many years. We just stopped being Jewish like my Zaidi was. And no one cared enough to shed a tear. But Zaidi made us laugh, Zaidi made us sing, and Zaidi made us Seder Pesach night. And Zaidi, oh my Zaidi, how I love him so. And Zaidi used to teach me wrong from right. And many winters went by, many summers came along. And now my children sit in front of me. And who will be the Zaidi of my children? Who will be their Zaidi if not me? Who will be the Zaidis of our children? Who will be their Zaidis if not we? And Zaidi made us laugh, Zaidi made us sing, and Zaidi made a kiddish Friday night. And Zaidi, oh my Zaidi, how I love him so. And Zaidi used to teach me wrong from right.
And there you have it. Zaidi, oh my Zaidi. All right. Yes. Good morning, Reb Chaim. How are you? You just missed my Zaidi. All right, here's some breaking news for you. A swarm of at least 4 early morning earthquakes reaching up to a 4.2 magnitude off Malibu Beach woke up Los Angeles yesterday. The quakes in the 2 a.m. Wednesday, January 25th swarm off the coast of California ranged from 2.6 to 3.5 to 4.2, according to the United States Geological Survey. The 38-minute series of quakes, including the 4.2 magnitude trembler, struck about 2.5 miles south of Malibu Beach. The 9-mile deep 4.2 magnitude quake hit at 2 a.m., waking up Los Angeles. I've been there, done that. That's not fun. It's a little bit scary. Well, that winter dusting we were supposed to get yesterday didn't happen, at least not here in Riverdale, north of the city. Many were expecting 1 to 2 inches of snow, but the weather warmed up too much, and it just became rain. Now, more than $60 billion have been paid out in fraudulent unemployment insurance claims during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a new report released by the United States Government Accountability Office yesterday. The House Oversight Committee said it will launch an investigation into the rampant waste of taxpayer dollars in COVID relief programs. Separately, the FDA wants to simplify the COVID-19 vaccination process to look more like what happens with the flu vaccine. New FDA documents explain that most people may only need 1 dose of the vaccine in order to be able to restore protection, regardless of how many shots they've had before. The agency's independent vaccine advisors are scheduled to meet later this week to discuss and vote on the future of COVID-19 vaccine regulations. I think that's going to be it for today. We will talk about masks a little later. Let's see what happens as we go on. Here's a word from our sponsors and then the Torah portion of our delicious and lovely Breakfast with Elli.
And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidol.com.
PestProRidol.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidol.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzanegroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzanegroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe.
All right. Patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar if you would like to contribute today. All right. As promised, here is Rabbi Sachs' Covenant and Conversation, Part 1.
Telling the story. Go to Washington and make a tour of the memorials, and you'll make a fascinating discovery. Begin at the Lincoln Memorial with the giant statue of the man who braved civil war and presided over the ending of slavery. On one side of that memorial, you'll see the Gettysburg Address, that masterpiece of brevity with its invocation of a new birth of freedom. And on the other side, the great Second Inaugural with its message of healing, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Then walk down the Potomac Basin and you see the Martin Luther King Memorial with its 16 quotes from the great fighter for civil rights, among them his 1963 statement, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." And giving its name to the monument as a whole, a sentence from the "I Have a Dream" speech, "Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope." Keep going along the tree-lined avenue bordering the water and you arrive at the Roosevelt Memorial. Constructed as a series of 6 spaces, one for each decade of his public career, each with a passage from one of the defining speeches of the time. Most famously, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And lastly, bordering the basin at its southern edge is a Greek temple dedicated to the author of the American Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. Around the dome are the words he wrote to Benjamin Rush. "I've sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." And defining the circular space are 4 parades, each with lengthy quotations from Jefferson's writings, among them one from the Declaration itself. Each of these 4 monuments, in other words, is built around a text and it tells a story, or built around texts, and each tells a story. Now go to London and walk around the monuments, especially those in Parliament Square. The memorial to David Lloyd George contains 3 words, David Lloyd George. The one to Nelson Mandela has 2, Nelson Mandela. And the one to Sir Winston Churchill, just 1 word, Churchill. Now, Winston Churchill was a man of words. In his early life a journalist, later a historian, author of almost 50 books, and the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was a man who delivered as many speeches and coined as many unforgettable sentences as Jefferson or Lincoln, Roosevelt or Martin Luther King, but not one of his utterances is engraved on the plinth beneath his statue. He is memorialized only by his name. Why the difference? The reason is that Britain and the United States have a quite different political and moral culture. England is, or was until recently, a tradition-based society. In such societies, things are as they are because that's how they were since time immemorial. It's unnecessary to ask why. Those who belong, know. Those who need to ask, show that they don't belong. American society is different, because from the Pilgrim Fathers onward it was based on the concept of covenant, as set out in Tanakh, especially in Shemot and Devarim, Exodus and Deuteronomy. The early settlers were Puritans in the Calvinist tradition, the closest Christianity ever came to basing its politics on the Hebrew Bible. Covenantal societies are not based on tradition. The Puritans, like the Israelites 3,000 years earlier, were revolutionaries, attempting to create a new type of society, one unlike Egypt, or in the case of America, one unlike England. Michael Walzer called his book on the politics of the 17th century Puritans The Revolution of the Saints. They were trying to overthrow the tradition that gave absolute power to kings and that maintained established hierarchies of class.
All right, that is part 1. We will do part 2, God willing, tomorrow. Please join with us. Happy to have you. In the 5th Aliyah, Moshe gathers the Israelite elders and conveys to them all of Hashem's instructions that we learned about in the past Parsha. Shnayim Yomi for today.
Chamishi of Parshas Boy. And now we continue with the laws of Pesach. We go to the mitzvah of Agudas Ezev. The Jews in Egypt were commanded to take a bundle of hyssop grass, dip it into the Karban Pesach blood, and put it on the mezuzahs and the mashkef, the doorposts, and the top of the door, according to most Mefarshim. Very interesting halacha. Why do you need to take a bundle of grass? Perhaps the bundle symbolizes the unity of Klal Yisrael. Karban Pesach is the first time we're doing a mitzvah as a nation. We need to recognize that all of us are bundled into one group. And many halachas of Karban Pesach actually reflect the unity and harmony of the Jewish people. And then Moshe is told to tell the Jews that when you get to Eretz Yisrael, you got to remember to do the Pesach. Rashi points out that in fact, in the desert, they did not bring the Karban Pesach. Only one time were they told in the second year after they left Egypt, they were instructed once to do a fluke, so to speak, Karban Pesach. Till they got to Eretz Yisrael 38 years later, no Karban Pesach. Very interesting coincidence, so to speak. Only when you get to Eretz Yisrael is this mitzvah relevant. Perhaps it's because this mitzvah is about entering the bris of Avodas Hashem. The main place to do that is where I'm standing right now in Eretz Yisrael. And then Moshe is told an amazing nevuah. He's told about the sons who are going to be asking, Ma havodah zeis lechem. What's going on with the sons? Everybody remembers. The Leil HaSeder, we got 4 sons. Where are these 4 sons from? 4 times in the Torah speaks about telling your sons the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. 3 of them are in Parshas Boy. And the first one appears in this Aliyah. It will be when your children will say to you, what is this avodah? And you answer, Zevach Pesach Hu Hashem. So besides for the obvious question, which is the answer in the Haggadah that this child receives, this is the Ben Harasha, by the way. You know how we know that? Because it doesn't say he's going to ask. It says he's going to say to you. The Rasha doesn't really have that many questions, but he does have a lot of answers. So he's saying to you, answering, what is this avodah anyway? And the answer you give him is Zevach Pesach Hu Hashem. It's not really the answer connected to the Ben Harasha. But that's an interesting thing to consider. I want to ask you another question. This Ben Harasha, who has got all these answers about Yiddishkeit, is Moshe telling the Jews, your kids will be Rishon in Eretz Yisrael, and the Aliyah ends up with them bowing down and giving thanks and hodah to Hashem. And all the Mefarshim ask, if you were just told that your son's going to be a Rasha, why are you so happy? Why are you being moeded to Hashem on the Besura Toivo of having children like this? And the answer is, every single child has a purpose. Even that child, who unfortunately might have strayed, just know you have to give hodah to Hashem for that child. He will ultimately be part of the great tikkun of Klal Yisrael.
All right. Let us go to England and hear from the chief.
What is the relevance of tefillin in our times? In Parshat Bo, the Torah states, "V'haya lo'ot al yadecha u'letotafot beineinecha," and they shall be a sign upon your arm and frontlets between your eyes. Here there is a reference to the tefillin shel yad, which we wear on the arm, and the tefillin shel rosh, which we wear on our heads. But notice, with regard to the tefillin of the arm, what the Torah says is in the singular, v'haya le'ot, it shall be a sign. Whereas with regard to the tefillin shel rosh, it is totafot in the plural. An explanation of this can be derived from the Aramaic translation of Onkelos, who translates totafot as tefillin, in the plural as well. So from here we learn that while we only have the shel yad on, the tefillin of the arm, which we start with, that is only in the singular, it's not the whole thing. It's only once we have the shel rosh on of the head, together with the shel yad of the arm, that it is tefillin. We have the entire set. Shel yad and shel rosh are actually separate mitzvot. However, the impact of them comes when both are there together. And there are 2 very powerful messages here for us. First of all, the shel yad, the tefillin of the arm, represents action because the arm is the busiest, most active part of the body, whereas the tefillin shorosh of the head, that represents thought and intention. And the message is that it's not good enough just to think, just to have intentions. We need to implement our intentions so that they can be realized through our actions. Secondly, the tefillin shel yad faces the heart, which is the seat of emotion, whereas the tefillin shorosh is upon our heads, which is the seat of logic. And the message here is that we shouldn't only be cerebral beings, we need to be feeling beings. We need to connect emotionally with others with love and affection. And also we need to recognize that we can't allow our emotions to run away with themselves. We need to apply logic and reason, and sometimes our minds need to put the brakes on our hearts. So on a daily basis, therefore, tefillin are so relevant for us. They remind us to always translate our good intentions into meaningful action, and also to guarantee that we have the highest quality of mind power and also emotional capacity in everything that we do. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, fantastic. And we are going to move on now to Tehillim because we're a little bit behind. All right, Tehillim, we are saying today, chapter 121. Let's all sing it together. All right, Tanya, let's do it today. We've got a lot of Tanya to get through, so let's do it quickly.
Tanya thoughts for the 4th of Shevat. Why do Jews like a little anti-Semitism? Because nothing kickstarts the dormant, godly soul like a threat against it. When our godliness has been lulled to sleep, the awareness of a threat against its essential connection, the accusation that he is completely severed from God, that will electrify him to life. That's the untouchable willingness to be amazed, the unsullied chachma, the entry point to stimulate a sleepy, godly soul. Ignite that, and the godly soul comes roaring back to life. That's the antidote to the foolishness of the animal soul, to recognize that any surrender to the animal soul sunders my relationship with God. That'll fire me up, and I will resist it.
It's a zero-sum game. It's a winner-take-all. You have a situation over here where the godly soul feels threatened. It feels that if it were, God forbid, to renounce its Judaism, its connection to God, that's the worst thing that could happen to it. And what's the other option? The other option is that it should give up its life, al kiddush Hashem, which for the godly soul not really a big deal. You have to remember, the godly soul is not obsessed with self in the first place. Self-perpetuation and survival is not very high on its list. Connection to God is much higher on its list. For the animal soul, on the other hand, there is nothing more important than self. So there's nothing more scary, nothing more scary than the thought of passing away. So when we have the godly soul and the animal soul in this clash, this monumental clash where each one, and there's no tomorrow after this. The winner is going to take all. By the Jew, the godly soul.
Thank you for joining Tanya in 5. Today's lesson for the 4th of Shevat. We conclude chapter 19. Chapter 19 in one word is ner, candle. The flame of the candle is unique in that it wants to always go out of itself, as when you look at the flame of the candle. Likewise, the soul wants to be united and bound up with God. That source is called Chachma. Supernal wisdom is the source of the soul, and being it's a vehicle for the Ein Sof, for the limitlessness of God. Therefore, it shines in us when we're transparent to its source. But when we're not transparent, when we fall prey to sin, we do something wrong. Therefore, the faculty of Chachma is not illuminating our being. It's not diffused into our soul. It's not animating us. It's not in control. Yet, the root and the core of the faculty of Chachma in the divine soul remains in the brain and is not clothed in the sackcloth of Klippa. In other words, it's not in exile. It is at that moment dormant. Dormant means like being asleep. You have your faculties, but they're not exercising and having their effect. So likewise, the wicked individual is an individual who is not allowing his godly soul to be true to his source, to allow it to have its influence in his life. Why? Because preoccupied with mundane pleasures of this world. Nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe says, even though it's there, it's dormant throughout, and that's what's defining us as a Jew, as we've said many times over. Nevertheless, when this individual is confronted with a test of matter of faith, meaning, am I going to be faithful to God? Am I going to be faithful to my Judaism? In other words, not to give up my faith for another faith or for idolatry. What happens then is that Chachma that was dormant awakens. It's aroused from its sleep, and now it exerts its influence. Why? Because in the end it is there, it was just dormant, and it needed to be aroused. And this was the moment that it was awakened from, the individual was awakened from their sleep, because it is a test of faith, and is now something that's beyond logic. It's not something logical, because if you didn't live your life for God, why would you choose God at this point to be your portion, to be your lot, yielding to Him and ready for martyrdom, to sanctify your life for Him? The only reason is because it's beyond logic, and that is the source of the soul again in the supernal wisdom, the Chachma of the soul. Because throughout their life, a wicked individual is in control, is controlled by their heart. They are not controlled by their divine soul, which is in their mind. But when it comes to a matter of faith, all of a sudden, the oneness of God, which is our faith, is now activated. Our soul is activated, that divine Chachma, and it is now influencing us to act in a way that's beyond logic, to ready to give up our lives. Again, even though we didn't live for God, we're ready to die for the unity and the oneness of God, for our Jewishness. The similar manner is also when a person, it might not be a test of faith, but it might be that they only have to express their commitment to another faith, even though in their hearts they don't believe it. So it's not that they're giving up their faith, and therefore the Chachma is now entering, and the Chachma of their soul is now awoken and is exercising the influence and not allowing that Jew to give up their faith. But even if it's a person who's already not giving up their faith in their heart, they truly believe in God, but it's just about expressing verbally, say you believe, just give a bow, which this has been done throughout the history of the Jewish people. Just express it because they were in a public forum. Even then, the soul will not allow Why? Not because of the love, the hidden love that's being exposed, but the hidden fear that's being exposed, the fear of separation, the fear of being separate from God, even though in our hearts we are bound up with Him, but to express verbally or in any other manner, even just in action, even though we don't believe it in our hearts, but it is now expressing in our garments of expression of thought, speech, or speech and action, even then the soul is awoken from its slumber and will not allow the Jew, as we learned in the previous chapter, in majority of cases, to even express something that they don't believe, faith in another religion, bowing down to idolatry and the like. This is the power of the Jewish soul, the chachma of the soul that is always there in defining us as a Jew. It is that part of God that is not natural or not the way everything else is in existence, that wants to be and fulfill itself. It wants just to be a part of God and never wants to be disconnected from God. And hence, when it comes to that test of faith, it will always remain connected and not disconnected. And that's Tanya 5. Thank you for joining.
That is so incredible. All right, Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam.
No, it's not impossible that Rebbe did say, just study
We're up
Rambam each and every day. I'll never miss
Do it.
my daily.
We've already seen by the laws of Onah, of cheating in business transactions, that the Torah has extra sensitivity towards a convert, and in addition to the general prohibition against cheating our fellow Jew in business, we have a special, unique prohibition against cheating a convert in business. The same thing applies with today's mitzvah. In addition to the general prohibition against cheating, taunting, or misleading our fellow Jew with our words, today we study negative mitzvah 252, which says that there's a special, unique prohibition to taunt or mislead a convert, because he's extra sensitive, he's joined from being a non-Jew to the Jewish people, and when you do that to him, you are attacking a deeper part of his soul. And therefore, you transgress a double prohibition. First, the prohibition to taunt another Jew. Second, the prohibition against taunting a convert.
Fantastic. All right. And that brings us to matters of Mashiach. Just let me, my computer is not letting me catch up here. Let's give me a second here. It'll be just a second. Here we go. All right. Now the question comes up, is study greater or is action greater? Well, Rabbi Tarfon said action is greater. Rabbi Akiva said study is greater. The elders concluded study is greater because it leads to action. That's from the Gemara, the Talmud in Kiddushin. It is impossible to do anything properly without study and training. On the other hand, no amount of training replaces actual experience, which brings much richer understanding. Furthermore, only action brings results. Exile, galut, is training. Until we master our lessons, we lack the understanding and sensitivity to fully appreciate the godly experience. Once we acquire this maturity, however, our emphasis will turn to action. Therefore, when Mashiach comes, action will be greater than study. That's our Mashiach thought for the day. And now our PSAs. Be a soup kitchen and food pantry available by texting the word food to 726-879, 726-879. You can get 7 days worth of pantry food and hot meals every single day. It's a great, great, great service that they provide, and they provide it no matter who you are, what you are, where you are. If you do not live in New York, then they will be happy to tell you where to find other sites. Rockland County, tomcheshabbos.org, Lakewood, tomche.org. Chicago, the Chicago Center Kitchen, and the national list at breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens. Achi Ezer, an amazing organization that is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to help you out with health issues, financial issues, food, clothing, whatever you need. They have a 24-hour urgent hotline, 516-791-4444. Hatzalah EMS. Hatzalah EMS is available 24/7, 365, worldwide. If you don't know where Hatzalah is in your neck of the woods, then you need to call me or them and arrange to get Hatzalah started. An amazing organization, let me tell you. Miss Askim, in times of bereavement, they can help you with everything from funeral arrangements to chairs for Shiva, to food for the Shiva, to counseling afterwards. 718-854-4548. Again, if you don't live in New York, they can help you find services near you. Just One Shabbos is a beautiful organization helping our teenagers get back to the beauty of keeping Shabbos. If you see a hate crime in progress, then you need to call 911. And you know what? That applies to Shabbos and Yom Tov. That's what the rabbis say. Even on Shabbos, even on Yom Tov, if you are a victim of a hate crime, you need to call 111. It's a concept of pikuach nefesh, saving your soul. And please, when you're out and about,
wear a mask. Is this really much to ask? Tie some
you don't want
fabric
to get
around your
flu, you
face.
don't want
Oh,
to
it's
get
the
cold, you
simplest
don't want
of
to catch
tasks.
anything
At the
from
gym,
anybody.
at the
And
store.
best way
Don't
to
treat
avoid
it like
is
such
by
a chore.
wearing a mask. And of course, get your vaccinations. You know, I'm a big proponent of vaccinations and keeping up to date with your vaccination. CDC is now confirming that their new studies are showing that we're going to need a new vaccination at least once a year, possibly even twice a year. And that's okay. We get a flu shot. We can get a vaccine shot at the same time. Not an issue, right? All right. Bring some heaven down. The Rebbe writes, you complain that peace in the home is, for you, fraught with obstacles. All of us today are souls that have been here before. In general, we return on unfinished business. Certainly, we are all responsible for doing all the good we can and avoiding everything harmful. But that certain unfinished business, that's where most of the obstacles will be. And those obstacles will be your only clue as to what business you are here to finish. Think about that. You get a clue. Most people don't get a clue. We the Jewish people, we get a clue. That's pretty cool, right? Come to me on social media. We can talk about that. Any of the Actors Rabbis groups at Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, or theactorsrabbi.com, where you can also sign up for life coaching services. Now, what is this Rabbi saying? It's reading it. We're going to do. Also, be careful if you're eating. A lot of it, this is true. Be very aware of your surroundings. I advocate that all the time. When you're out and about walking, don't concentrate on your phone. Concentrate on the people around you, just to make sure that you're safe. Okay? Let's make an after bracha.
Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborosa lachayos bohem nefesh kol chai Baruch chai ha'olamim.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. There will be a repeat of this on almost all the platforms. They all have a repeat performance. I know. Thank you. Pest Pro Rid, Al Tarzan Orchids, Dina D Design, Dr. Susan Spitzer, Bracha Biederman. You are what helps keep this program alive and going out to the 12 platforms that we are on. We have Aviad today going to sing us a brand new song that we found yesterday. So I know you're going to enjoy that. Pest Pro Rid, Al Tarzan Orchids, Dina D Design, Dr. Susan Spitzer, Bracha Biederman, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, or our virtual tip jar at breakfastwithelli.live/tip jar. Lots more at breakfastwithelli.live. All right. We are preparing for Yud Shvat, 6 days away, the anniversary of the Rebbe's taking over the leadership of Chabad Lubavitch following 11 months passing, the 11 months previously, the passing of the previous Rebbe. The Rebbe very reluctantly agreed to become Rebbe. And what a glorious 73-year reign it has been. So go to yudshvat.org if you'd like more about that. Today is the yahrzeit of the Holy Baba Sali and of our dear friend Moshe Yes, reminded today to us by his son, which was really, really cool. Tali Yes. Check out Tali Yes's music. Tali Yes, T-A-L-I. Yes, Y-E-S-S. Tali is short to Naphtali. That answers your question. All right. Go out there and make it a great day today. Go out and do something nice, something good for someone today. In the words of Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Draw a fellow close, and Hashem will draw you close to him. Tomorrow we will conclude the Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. So please come back. Bring more people to watch or listen, depending what platform you on. And I will see you then, God willing, and the creek don't rise. Enjoy the song.
אני מנסה תמיד איך להביא את זה נכון. אומרים צריך גם מאמץ ולא הכל זה כישרון, ויש בי גם מזה ועוד צד גם מזה, ותכלס כלום עוד לא עובד. אנשים באים אומרים לי אולי תשאיר נכון, אתה צועק מהגרון, תשאיר יותר עם ביטחון, אולי תהיה כמו זה, אולי כזה, אכלתם לי את הראש. לפעמים דברים צריכים לזרום לבד, לפעמים דברים צריכים לזרום. זה אולי נשמע תירוץ, עוד שנייה אני נחנק, אני לא נהג מרוץ, אני יוצא מהמשחק ומהעניין בלשרוף את הזמן, רק לא להיות מקום שני. אני באתי לעולם רק ל120 שנה כדי לתת את הניגון שלי, את הדיבור שלי, מתנה רק תעזור לי, לבד זה לא עובד לי, תמיד להיות מי שאני. לפעמים דברים צריכים לזרום